you have a full video game like story book movie, and how do you just manage to fuck that up? What's going on, ladies and gents in Cyberland? Coming back to you with another film review. This time we're moving on to a film that I always heard it was very bad, and just never got around to watching it just because I didn't really care. And at some point, I think it was available on Netflix or Hulu or one of those streaming services, so I watched it. And Max Payne. So Max Payne came out back in the early 2000s for the PS2, and it was a amazing game. It was an amazing story. It had great characters. It was a great game. It was a 10 out of 10 game. It's just, there wasn't anything that was bad about that freaking game. And it was done by Rockstar, which was shocking because, Grand Theft Auto. You didn't think they would do that, but they did. And the clip scenes you would have in the game and everything leading up to the end, it wasn't a dull moment. The movie, no disrespect to the people that did the movie, the story was just, and this is where I always go in the reviews, the action wasn't the problem. The story was just crap. They just did not fully follow the video game story. And the crazy thing is, people say, well, it's hard to make video games into movies. No, it's not when you already have the movie written. Like, the story is already written. Just make that into a movie. And they just deviated from that. They were trying to... Max Payne spent the majority of the time talking to himself in his mind. That's how the game was. He would be thinking while you're going through the game. And really, that's how they should have done a lot of scenes with Mark Wahlberg. He shouldn't have been talking like this, with his mouth. It should have been he's saying things through his mind, because that's what made the game great. He doesn't spend a lot of time talking, and when he does, it's to get a serious point across, or somebody's about to get killed or something. But the majority of the time, he talks about the city, he talks about his life, he talks about every day what's going on in the city, what's going on with the people, the mindset of the criminals, and that's what draws you in to the game. It's not just the action, and the film completely didn't do any of that, and it should have, because they're trying to take Max Payne and make it seem like he's just this loner and he don't talk to anybody, but there's a couple people talk to him. Like, no, that's not how it should go, and they just didn't do it justice. Even when Mila Kunis, beautiful Mila Kunis, when she had her scenes, like, it should have had him doing the dialogue in his head when it came to her. And somebody said, well, that wouldn't work for a film. Like, why not? Why not? Why not try it? I mean, there was a scene in Sin City with, what's his name? He was at the very beginning. He was an assassin. Like, hearing him talk inside his head, that worked. You could have done that with Max Payne, and they didn't. The story was too... I don't know if you could have made a series out of the first game. You might have could, and it would have been good. But the film just was like, the mob should have been really heavily involved, and they weren't. It was like you just kept like the game. You really had three groups of villains, three sets, and the movie just omitted almost two of them and only had one. And I was just like, really? Like, the last villain in the game is not that big of a presence. They're kind of like the person behind the curtain. But what made the game fun is because you were trying to take down those two groups before you got to the final one. And the final one wasn't as important as the first two, if you get what I'm saying. And the film completely deviated from that. And it was just like, action was alright. And then, in the game, you take these pills to get your energy out, and also it helps you be able to move really fast and dodge bullets and stuff. And they do that in the film, but it's not done the right way. Like, it makes him invincible and stuff. Like, no, that's not what it was for. You still got hurt when you were using the pills. The point was to where it makes you move. It's a drug that enhances your ability to move fast. But there's a downside to where you can get hurt pretty bad doing it. You can still get shot. It just makes it to where you can move a lot faster. But in hindsight, it's not going to be good for the body internally. And that was the point of when they did it in Max Payne. Actually, in all three Max Paynes, 1, 2, and 3. And they just didn't do Max Payne justice. And what gets me about video game movies is, like, it's not hard to do. Like, most video games, this ain't this ain't Super Mario, Sonic. That a lot of games that I play have a well-written story. Take the story and just put it in the cinema. Because let's be honest, most people do not play video games. And if they do, they play shooters, fighting games, or sports games. A lot of people don't like to fully read all the time. They don't like a lot of dialogue. They just want to get to the action or whatever they're doing, and that's it. A lot of people are not going to sit down and play BioShock. They're not going to sit down and play Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy. They're not going to sit down and play Zelda. Why? Because there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of character development. And that's okay. If you're not one of those people, that's okay. Everybody has their type of game. But you already know that. So what's the problem with taking the story of Max Payne, the game, and just putting that into a 2-hour film? It's not hard to do. You could have cut a couple things here and there, but it wouldn't have been hard. And they just didn't do it. And then what you get is just a very bad film. A very bad film. I would not, and the crazy thing is the amount of cast that they have in it, they're not the problem. It's the story is just, it's not being represented properly on screen. It's just a trash film. So my rating for the film, I give a 2 out of 10 yes sirs. I would not recommend it. I would say if you can find Max Payne on emulator, or if you can find it to where you can download it somewhere or pick it up to where you can play it on one of the current systems, I don't know if it's possible, play the fucking game. Just play the first game, even though it's gonna. I hear they might be talking about remastering it, but play the game. The game is a well written story. It's fun, but it's just a good story. Play the game as opposed to watching the movie. I'm not that mad because I already knew I was walking into something that may not be that good, so I didn't feel like it wasn't fully like I didn't expect it to be. I had low expectations, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I only gave it a 2 out of 10 because I love Mark Wahlberg. I love Mila Kunis. I think she's a great actress. I like Beau Bridges. I'm fine with Ludacris with the films he's been in. The fast films. I don't have a problem. And Chris O'Donnell, I haven't seen him in a while. But it's just not a good film. So, with that being said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care.